So have all of you been through the first 5 sessions? Or seen them or watched them? Yes, no? Some of them. All right. You guys ready for some fun? All right, we need the tissues.
I was just thinking that. Is it crying again?
No, I just like to give them just in case you guys want to share them. Now, there is so much for us to talk about. So the first 5 sessions all are built upon today. Today it culminates everything for me. My whole approach as a clinician and what I hope we instill in all the other classes is compassion. Because what I found in working with women in your situation is that you don't need others to beat yourself up because you do a good job yourself. And one of the challenges that we have in our culture is that we can't be prideful, right? So what's the opposite of prideful?
Meek and humble.
Meek and humble, but not negative and pessimistic and self-derogatory. So if I was to ask each of you, just do me a favor and say, how much of the time do you spend thinking thoughts about yourself that are positive? Positive to negative ratio. How many of you would say you think more positive about yourself than negative? All right, that's not a very good average here. My question is why are we thinking so negative about ourselves? So I'm going to invite you to think about that. But before we really get going in here, I'm going to be teaching you about mindfulness today. And I have a very specific request to teach you this concept. Okay, and it has to do with how to be more mindful. So we're going to practice some breathing. Is that okay? We've already done a little bit of this in earlier sessions. If you were with me, you know that we've done some breathing. So today we're going to start off with a breathing exercise, and I'm going to just do a little bit of a mindful exercise because it really sets the table for where we're going to be going today. Okay? So are you ready? We're going to practice the breathing exercise for 1 minute. We're going to breathe in through our nose for 4 to 6 seconds. We're going to go out for 6 to 8 seconds. Like this for a minute. Okay? Now, before we do this, I want you to feel your body. Are you relaxed? Are you tense? Do you have a headache? Are your feet cold? Are your hands cold? Is your stomach upset or calm? Are your shoulders tight or relaxed? Okay? Now that's just to get you paying a little bit of attention to your body. Now I'm going to ask you to do just a 1 minute exercise with me. We're going to practice breathing. I just want you to focus on your breathing. If other thoughts come in, like you hear the projector over there, I just want you to pull yourself back to your thoughts. Any sounds, the sound of the air blowing, I just want you to go back to your breathing. Just focus on the breathing, okay? We're going to do this for 1 solid minute. I'll tell you when to stop. But we're going to go in through the nose, 4 to 6, and out 6 to 8, okay? All right, you ready? Go. Okay, 1 minute. All right, how do you feel? little bit more relaxed. Now what I'm just giving you is a very basic exercise in mindfulness. The first step in mindfulness is actually getting in touch with your breathing. When you're in high trauma, when you're dealing with high stress, that simple tool is a very powerful one to slow down the racing mind. I strongly encourage you to do that 3 to 5 times a day, except for doing it for 1 minute. I want you to do it for 3. 3 minutes is more effective, 5 minutes is even better, and 20 minutes is the best. Most people don't have that much time. So a 3 minutes, 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, evening. Question?
Yeah, can it be adapted, or is it really important to breathe out through your mouth? Like, can you do in your nose and out your nose, or is it really important to do?
There is high value in coming in through your nose. If you can't, come in through both, but going out through the mouth is actually a little bit better. It's interesting, they've done, I told the men in our men's group last night this, but one of the reasons that people who smoke have a hard time quitting smoking is actually the smoking. Watch this real quick. And they say relaxing so smoking, or smoking so relaxing. Well, just get rid of the cigarette and do the same breathing and you'll still relax. You don't get the nicotine high either, and you won't die of cancer either, but other than that, all right, but the concept there is literally trying to get the body to relax. All right, now that's the beginning step of a mindful meditation. And so now I'm going to take you to the next part of this, and I would like you to do me a favor, and I would like you to feel your left foot. I just want you to feel your left foot. Is it warm? Is it cold? So pay attention. How does your left foot feel? You kind of got an idea how it's feeling? All right, now I want you to shift, and I want you to try to move your big left toe. That's not too hard, right? Okay, we're still breathing with this. Right? Now what I want you to do is I want you to try to move your 3 middle toes without moving your big toe. No, you can't do it, can you? Okay. I wonder why. All right, so now real quick, let's do it with our hand, right? Left hand up. Move your big thumb without moving your other fingers. That's not too hard, right? Can you move these 3 fingers without moving your thumb? You can, right? What's the difference? Why can you do it with your hand and not your toes?
Practice.
We use these a whole lot more than those down there. They don't have to specialize in the dexterity that we need with our hands. The brain actually is told where to pay attention. You aren't telling your foot to pay attention because it doesn't need to. But this it does. It needs to be more flexible and you need to be more dexterous with it. Okay? So in mindfulness, we're paying attention to us. And I just gave you a small sample of how to pay attention to certain parts of your body. Now, what does this have to do with self-compassion and healing? Wow, you guys are really, really good at quiet observers today. What does this have to do with being compassionate?
Well, I think it all starts with the awareness that when you're mindful, you're more aware of your thoughts. And when you're aware that you have negative thoughts and emotions, then you have the power to send them away.
Yes.
But when you're not mindful and aware, your thoughts control you and you're a slave to your thoughts.
Okay.
By becoming mindful, you can choose to let them go.
Ding, 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 ding. All right, so real quick, what was it like feeling your big left toe? When's the last time your last toe had that much attention? Oh, never? Unless somebody stepped on it or hit it with something. But when's the last time your big left toe had that much attention from you? Never? All right, so what I'm just trying to illustrate is if you don't pay attention to something, you don't know what's going on. And for so long, many of you have had such negative thoughts that you haven't been able to hear that your big left toe is actually in pain And it hurts a lot. And so I'm asking you to pay attention to your own self-talk. Now, many of you have been in a relationship where you've been lied to, you've been betrayed, and you've been told stories and fabricated things that make you really feel bad about yourself. And so for a long period of time, your internal talk has been, something's wrong with me, I'm flawed. So today, my goal is to help you understand the truth. And in order to get us started there, we're going to watch a really short video that, if you haven't seen this is really cool. If you've seen it, we're going to be dancing. We're going to be dancing. Okay, you guys have seen this?
Yeah.
This is so cool. We're not going to watch the whole thing. We're going to watch part of it.
I'm here to get validated.
You are awesome.
Excuse me?
You have an amazing face. You've got powerful features, man. Anyone ever tell you that?
No.
And listen, you look a little down. And it may seem like sometimes people don't understand you. But someday, man, someday, people are gonna see you for what you really are.
You really think so?
Absolutely. You are great.
Need a validation, please?
You are great, ma'am. You have amazing cheekbones.
Really?
Sir, yes. We have a situation.
Where?
Oh my gosh. 6 months old.
What the hell's going on?
Yes, that is so sweet.
You've been through it. You know. You've had so much life experience that other people don't appreciate, but you know.
Bless you, dear.
They're not patronizing the shops. They're just coming to see him.
Oh, sir. You're in great shape. You work out?
Not for long.
I do, actually, a bit. Yeah, thanks.
Young man, we are running a business here, not a social club.
That is a fantastic suit. It really flatters you.
You think so?
You guys work so hard. You are the backbone that keeps this place running.
It always felt like no one really appreciated us.
Yeah, I mean, our jobs are so stressful, and it seems like most of the times people just don't see it.
No, what you do is so important.
You know, I bet the boss would love to meet you.
You are great. You provide hundreds of jobs, sustaining hundreds of families. That's huge.
That's so good to hear. Most times I feel like people don't recognize that. I'm just the big bad man on the hill.
Not at all. You give.
You know, I know some people who'd probably like to meet you.
Mr. President, no matter what people say about you, you have still got a great golf swing. God bless you. You do. You have a fantastic mustache. I bet Burt Reynolds and Tom Selleck look at you and get envious. I'm not kidding.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hugh Newman, a man who is changing the world with free parking and free compliments.
New leaf. A very big new leaf.
Your license is expired, sir.
That is why you're great at what you do. You are so thorough.
Really? You think so?
Hugh, what is your secret?
I just love to see people smile.
It's a great story. Now my question is this. Let's get the lights real quick, Danny. When's the last time someone validated you? When's the last time you validated someone else? So we live in this world where we are hungering and thirsting after someone just say you matter. You're important. So we live in this world where we feel what? Out of place? A misfit? What's wrong with me? Nobody cares? If you've been in a marriage where you've been treated poorly, that's one of the core questions is, what has it done to your self-worth and your self-concept? And the way I often say this is, I am what? Finish the sentence. I am what? Of worth. I am kind. I'm compassionate. I'm caring. True? But how often do you think of those thoughts in contrast with, I'm obviously not good enough, or he would not have done this? He wouldn't have this problem if I were only better. The authentic, the real you is what? So I have a 4-year-old girl. You guys who are moms know this. So when you give a 4-year-old a compliment, what do they say? You are beautiful, and she says, I know. Really? How does she know that? No one had to tell her otherwise. She knows she's beautiful. Now I say that to my 14-year-old or 15-year-old or 16-year-old, and she says, you're my dad. You have to say that. Well, where did that 4-year-old go? She's still there, isn't she? 4-year-old knows she's beautiful. 16-year-old thinks what? What's wrong with me? Why don't I get asked out on dates? Or I'm so awkward, nobody would want to be with me. Then we get into a relationship where we think we're loved, and the betrayal that we experience makes us question even more. All right? So how do we have self-compassion when in reality there's people around us who may not know how to validate us? Didn't you love that guy? You sit and listen to him all day long, right? You are awesome. And it's just so cool. Right? It's so real. But isn't that real? Aren't you awesome? All right. Think about it. You get to choose. It's a choice. But the thoughts that you've been having about yourself, if it's more negative than positive, I want you to listen to your internal dialogue. And now I want you to be a little bit more mindful of what's going on internally. Because if you don't stop those tapes, it doesn't matter what he does, whether he acts out or not. If your negative thought tapes are so self-critical, you're not going to find peace no matter what he's doing. This is about you. Your peace. Right? When's the last time you felt calm or peace? When's the last time you actually felt a sense of, I'm okay. I like who I'm becoming. What's so wrong with me? What's so wrong with that 4-year-old girl? So if I had a blackboard here, I would say, we are born with high self-worth. Would you agree with that? I've never seen any child come out saying, I suck. Somewhere along the line, some life experience happens. Somewhere, and sometimes in many situations it's more than just one. life experiences. So I'm born with high self-worth, and somewhere it goes. Somewhere it leaves us. Well, does it really leave us, or did we just forget our true worth? What do you think? Some experience, someone. It could have been on the playground. It could have been a teacher. When I was in Nebraska, I had a very interesting experience that just parallels this. So I was sitting down with this lady who was a nurse. She had lost her license. She had lost her license because she'd been self-medicating. So she came to me as a part of the requirement to get her license back. So she started telling me her life story. She said, my parents told me I was retarded. They really thought I was, her language at the time, I was retarded, I was stupid. In second grade, I was behind all my peers. They had me going to do testing, and I had a teacher who said, I don't think she's handicapped. I don't think she is. So she was fortunate enough to have that teacher in both second and third grade. By the end of second grade, she was almost up to her peers, and by the end of third grade, she was actually ahead of her peers in reading and math. But yet her parents still treated her like there was something wrong with her. She goes through high school and actually gets good enough grades. She graduates, does very well. She gets married, and her first husband dies. She remarries, and that husband dies. She gets married a third time, and that husband dies. After the third death, she's in her 40s with an 18-year-old son, she self-medicates to the pain. She loses her license. She's now working at McDonald's, providing for her son, doing the very best she can. And she comes in with this incredibly low self-worth. What's wrong with me? Why did I put my job at jeopardy? Why did I do all these things? What's wrong with me? And so that's when I asked her to tell me her life story. And she told me about her parents and how they treated her. She told me about that teacher. And then I say, so how did you become a nurse if you were handicapped? And she said, I wasn't handicapped. I was told I was that. That teacher is the only one that actually gave me a hope. She said, I finished second in my nursing class. I'm sorry, second in nursing class does not equal handicap or mentally incapable of learning. All right. So when I asked her to tell me her story, she goes through all of these things, and I say, you are an amazingly resilient woman. And she looked at me like I just said something dumb. I said, no, I mean seriously. I mean, I listened to your story, and you finished second in your class, so obviously you're not dumb. You lost 3 husbands. I don't know anybody who would not be in a lot of pain there. And now, because you can't work in the profession you wanted to, you're doing everything you can to provide stability for your son by working at McDonald's when you had absolutely nothing, no family support, no nothing. So what's your story? Right, what's your story? How resilient are you? We talked about that in week 5. Can you have self-compassion? Because I'm going to tell you back reality. The authentic you, the authentic real you, is like my 4-year-old daughter who, when I tell her she looks pretty in this dress, says, I know. That's the real you. But is she there, or is she on vacation? Did she get sent to Siberia and she feel like she's freezing? The real you. Do you see her? Have you talked with her lately? How's she doing? The real you. The authentic real you. Is she doing all right? Does she come out and play every once in a while? Or is the negative self-talk, that one who's been criticized and put down and had those life experiences where she's told she was stupid, or is she the one out? Which one's dominating your life right now? So I'm going to invite you to let the real, authentic you come out and play. The happy one, the nurturing one, the compassionate and caring one, Research shows that people who have more self-compassion actually have less depression, more happiness, greater life satisfaction. Oh, and they live a little bit longer. Self-compassion. So do you know what compassion means? So the word broken down is calm is with, and passion is suffering. Together with pain or suffering. So I'm going to invite you to consider that concept for a second. They've also proven that people who have self-compassion actually are more compassionate for other people. Again, the authentic real you is a compassionate person. But when you're in survival mode, when you've been traumatized, when you've been betrayed, you go into survival mode, and the authentic you is where? She's struggling, she's suffering, she's in pain. And I'm inviting you through the mindfulness strategy I started with today, I want to invite you to go talk with yourself about that pain. Listen to the pain. It's there to teach you. But have compassion for yourself with that pain. I do hurt. I have been betrayed. I'm okay. I'm a person of great and infinite worth. Is that true? I'm a person of infinite worth. When I went to the Togetherness Project, I asked the women to do me a favor, and I said, I am awesome. Can you guys say that? You ready? You're going to say it with me. I am
awesome.
Do you believe it? A little bit louder. I am
Awesome.
Huh. It really convinced me of this. I am what?
Awesome.
I am good. I am kind. I'm loving. I am caring. Yes, yes, yes. Am I? That's who you are instinctively. That's naturally who you are. But when we don't have self-compassion, and we let the negative self-talk tapes run our lives, I am what? I am broken. I am useless. I am unkind. I'm what? I'm not tall enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm overweight. I'm this. I'm that. I'm these things. No, 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 no. Who are you really? That's our local airplane. Do you hear it? It's probably the bathroom. All right. So now I'm going to, how are we doing? What time is it?
It's 12:38.
12:38. So now I'm going to shift into how we develop self-compassion and what it looks like, okay? And I'm going to use Kristen Neff in her book, Self-Compassion. If you want a good read, Kristen Neff's book on self-compassion would be valuable for anybody in your situation. We've also talked a little bit about Brene Brown's work on vulnerability before some of you came. That's great work. But Kristen Neff, she said, she's an expert in compassion research, and she says self-compassion entails three components. First of all, it requires self-kindness. That we be gentle and understanding with ourselves rather than harshly critical and judgmental. So a common concept here in self-compassion is a lack of judgment or self-judgment or self-criticism. A self-compassionate person is not judgmental of self. Number two, it requires recognition of our common humanity, feeling connected with others in experience of with others in the experience of life rather than feeling isolated and alienated by our suffering. Now, I don't know how many of you have support around you as you go through what you're dealing with your spouse's behavior. But everybody needs social support. Everybody needs someone to care. One more time, it requires recognition of our common humanity. We're all humans, we all make mistakes, but we need social connectedness. Isolation is very dangerous for women in your situation. Isolation puts you in an environment where you're all by yourself alone. I know it takes a lot of courage to be here today. It takes a lot of courage to tell a friend of what you're really dealing with, or a parent or a family member. It takes a lot of courage to stand up and say, this is killing me. But living in isolation is very dangerous for you emotionally. Number 3, it requires mindfulness. That we hold our experience in balanced awareness rather than ignoring our pain or exaggerating it. I'm in real pain. In the book Opening Up, Dr. James Pennebaker, he actually studies the power of sharing our emotions and thoughts through writing. And in his work, he talks, and in fact, one of the articles that you've received in this class is an article I wrote on the power of writing, or power of journaling. And in his work, he found that people who can't express emotion, positive or negative, are more likely to be depressed and have physical ailment problems, physical health. So if you have a positive experience and you cannot share it with someone, or you have a negative experience and you cannot share it with someone, you're more prone to be depressed and you're more likely to have health problems. They actually have done enough research that says even positive emotions that can't be shared are dangerous for you. We need to be able to share emotion. Now, us men are a little bit backwards there, and yet we still need to be able to share emotion. Good days, bad days, hard days, fun days, days. We need to be able to share them. All right, so that's what Kristen Neff says about it. Now my question is, if we're having self-compassion, what does self-compassion really look like? What kind of thoughts are we having about self? Give me some examples. If you're having self-compassion, what does it sound like?
I think self-compassion just has a broader perspective, that when you're not having self-compassion, you're very narrow-minded. But to be able to take a step back and really look at the picture and just see what's really happening with yourself on why did you react the way that you reacted, why are you feeling this emotion, instead of just being within the emotion and not understanding it.
Okay, so we start to understand the why of things. And from a mindful perspective, we don't put any judgment on any emotion that we have. Is it okay to be angry? Is it okay to be hurt? Is it okay to be really, really sad? Yes and yes and yes. From a mindful perspective, we just are emotion. We have those emotions. And so going back to what she says in her work on mindfulness, she says, if we can't be authentic with our pain, then we can't be real with our reality. Right? Can you be real with what you're really feeling? Or do you have to hide it, push it away, push it down, ignore it, because there's no place to express it? So Dr. Pennebaker says you need to be able to express it, and he suggests through writing. So if I was to give you a writing exercise, I would invite you to write for 10 minutes on this journal prompt. I am awesome because I, and write for 10 minutes just on that statement. I am awesome because I, finish it out. So you got that assignment down? We're going to write on that for 10 minutes. By the way, I suggest writing every day. I'm a firm advocate of writing every day. Every day. Sometimes you write to what we call a prompt, which is a specific, what I just gave you, or sometimes you just write about frustrations, hurts, pains, or sometimes you can write about things you need to get done. Just, you want to be more aware of what's going on in your world? I strongly recommend it. All right, do you guys have questions? Because I've got two other components that I want to teach today, but do you guys have any questions before I move on? All right. Yes, no? All right, so now I'm going to go to a concept. This is really hard to teach. Just going to tell you in advance. And I'm going to use Thich Nhat Hanh's, he's a Vietnamese Buddhist monk. I'm going to use a couple quotes from his work titled Teachings on Love to illustrate this concept. And he says, without understanding, love cannot be true love. We must look deeply in order to see and understand the needs, aspirations, and suffering of the ones we love. We all need love. All right, one more time. Without understanding, love cannot be true love. We must look deeply in order to see and understand the needs, aspirations, and suffering of the ones we love. Now, I bring this up because I want you to think about this with me for a second. We get so caught up in our pain, can we see our own suffering and our own pain? Can we honor our own suffering? And can we see the suffering in the people around us? It is very hard to see addiction with love. Would you agree with that? Is it hard to see betrayal with love? Absolutely is. Now, he says deep understanding. The roots of all misbehavior there's a reason for all roots are all misbehavior. They all have a story. Everybody who misbehaves has a story. And he's suggesting that we have to understand it in order to truly love. Now, I don't want you to feel guilty here. Let me be very clear. Because some of you say, does that mean I'm not loving my husband the right way, or I didn't love him the right way? No. If I understand their suffering, that doesn't necessarily mean I can be in a relationship with them. Some people are unavailable in relationships. They aren't relationship ready. Some people want to be in a relationship, but they have their own issues that need to be resolved. And so he says we have to have deep understanding. How deeply do you understand your suffering and the suffering of the people around you? Remember self-compassion. The more self-compassion I have, the more likely I am to be compassionate with others. That doesn't mean I'm going to stay married to you. But that means I have more compassion for your illness. Okay? Think about it. All right. So, in order to be loved, we have to love, which means that we have to understand. Self-compassion is understanding, and you can't understand others fully if you don't understand yourself. Do you understand you? Do you understand how you think, how you feel, why you feel, what you feel? Yes, no? Do you get yourself, your own thinking patterns? And he says this, there are different kinds of love, and he calls it Maitri, M-A-I-T-R-I. So M-A-I-T-R-I is the intention and capacity to offer joy and happiness. Would you say that's who you are? People who offer joy and happiness to people and others? Is that who you guys naturally are? I would think so. And that is called Maitri love. The capacity, to develop that capacity, we have to practice looking and listening deeply so that we know what to do and what not to do to make others happy. And he tells a story about this fruit that he doesn't like. And this fruit it stinks. He says, so as a Buddhist monk, we go into the monastery and we're doing our worshiping, our meditating, and he said, there is this fruit up there that just stinks. And he said, I had to get up and go put a bowl over it because I couldn't focus on my meditation. It stunk so bad. He said, now imagine with me that my best friend comes into the room and says, hey, I've got this fruit for you as a gift because I love you. he says, is that love? Does that person really love me? He said, if they really deeply understood me, they would not offer me that fruit. This goes both directions, right? So when we understand self-compassion, we truly understand compassion towards self, and we understand it towards others. So that's one of the concepts that we need to learn, to listen deeply and love deeply. He said, when we understand someone deeply, even someone who has done us harm, we cannot resist loving him or her. Do you agree with that? One more time. When we understand someone deeply, even someone who has done us harm, we cannot resist loving him or her. Is that true, do you think? Now, that's a hard concept, isn't it? Are we supposed to love everybody? Yes. But can I love someone from a distance? Yes. This is a harder concept. When we understand someone deeply, even someone who has done us harm, we cannot resist loving him or her. But I'm going to suggest that sometimes that love means that we're not with them. A few years ago, I had a neighbor whose daughter stole silver coins, heirlooms from their family, hundreds of dollars worth of silver heirlooms. And they struggled and debated what to do because she had used it for drugs. They were gone. There was no getting these silver coins back. And after a period of time of dealing with that with her, finally they said enough, and they turned her into the police. She spent time in the Utah County Jail, the longest on recorded history without actually going to prison. She was in there for over a year, which is really an anomaly. The most loving thing that they could do for their daughter. She actually got help and was clean for 2.5 years after that experience. Sometimes the deepest love we have for people is to let them deal with what they've done. Sometimes that's what you guys have had to do. But that does not mean you don't love them. Does that make sense? Is that fair? Sometimes you've given them chance after chance after chance because you are loving people. So now I get back to this overall self-concept of who you are. And the only way I can illustrate this story is, or tell you this, is I'm going to start by telling you how you are. You are more loved than you actually know. So now I'm going to illustrate this through a story. A few years ago, I was serving as an LDS bishop. And I had a couple that had lived in our ward for, well, they've been there for over 50 years. So they've been there. I live in a very old neighborhood and old homes. And they came to me and said, hey, we want to come back to church. We haven't been coming, and we'd like to become active. I said, okay. So we worked together for a few months, and they became active and participated and just did everything that they could possibly do. But one day he calls me up, and I'm mowing my lawn, and he says, I need you to come to the hospital because my wife is dying, and before she dies, she wants to see you. So I quickly finish mowing the lawn, jump in the shower, get to the hospital. And I get to the hospital, and I did 25 funerals as a bishop. I know what the death look looks like. She's off staring off at the wall. So I come in, and she's staring off at the wall. And they take her, the nurses come and say, we got to go do a CAT scan on her to see if we can figure out what's going on. They take her out, he pulls me aside, and he says, Bishop, she has been in and out of the veil. She's been on this side and that side for the last 24 hours. And she's talking about people she's met there. She's talking about situations there. So they roll her back in, and after he's told me this, and he goes up on the left side of the bed, he grabs her by the arm softly and says, "Hey, sweetheart, the bishop's here to see you." She sits up in bed, and she says, "I want a Diet Coke." So the nurse goes and gets a Diet Coke. And then she starts to proceed to talk about her experience on the other side of the veil. She went for 40 minutes. And I'm not kidding you. She went for 40 minutes, and she talked about her kids are there. One of them struggling with drugs. One of them, his wife's had health problems, but they're just sitting there, and I'm there, and their husband. But here's the point. She said, by her own volition, she said, "I was a mean, ornery lady. I wasn't kind." And she said, "Why me?" At one point she said, "This sheet looks white. This is nothing in comparison to where I was." She described the colors there. She talked about conversations there. And then she said this. She said, "The love of God is deeper than anything I've ever felt." She said, and I can only assume she was referring to her former self of being mean. She said, "Why me?" From that, I felt the deepest sense of love of God that I've ever experienced at any other time in my life. My 4-year-old daughter knows that she's lovable. She knows she's beautiful. This almost 70-year-old lady, who, by the way, did not die at that time, she continued living for another 1.5 years. She knew the love of God for her, a sinner. So my question is, do you truly understand your worth? Who you are? Your true value? Or has your life experiences made you question your legitimate, authentic, real self? Today I'm inviting you to consider having more self-compassion. Self-compassion is not arrogance, it's not prideful. Self-compassion is a person who is kind and loving and truly who you are as women. So I invite you to feel that true self-worth. Because if you can feel that, you can do anything. You can go through hard times because you know who you are. In this class, we've talked about being resilient because you are resilient. We've talked about how to deal with thoughts that are anxious thoughts, that keep you worried, that the mind's not slowing down. We've talked about how to mindfully go through life and these experiences. We've actually helped you, if you've been through the whole class, help you assess depression, anxiety, and stress. We've helped you understand betrayal trauma because betrayal trauma, it influences every other aspect of how you see the world around you. And in all of these classes, today I'm trying to get you to see, regardless of the pain and the hurt of where you've been, your true worth and your true value. Because then you can stand up and say, I'm going to be okay, and I don't know what the outcome is here, but I know I'm going to be okay. Because I'm of infinite worth and value. That story on validation, imagine with me, right before you're born, God says, I'm going to miss you. Be careful down there. And don't forget who you are. And if you ever need me, I'm here. I'll be there. At times you might feel alone. And you might feel like nobody understands. And you might feel like nobody cares. But I will be there if you'll just remember. If he can do that with my neighbor who is a mean, ornery lady by her own volition, and give her that kind of validation of love that I promise you I've never felt that way before, that description she gave. If he can do that, don't forget it. Humans hurt us, and we hurt others. That's our common humanity. But each of us are of infinite value and worth. So today I'm inviting you to have that self-compassion, and here's the outcome. When you have that kind of self-compassion, you're more prone to be able to give that to your children and to others around you. Because that's authentically who you are. So let me finish with a quote. Compassion contains deep concern. You know the other person is suffering, so you sit close to her. You look and listen deeply to her to be able to touch her pain. You are in deep communication, deep communion with her, and that alone brings some relief. Have you guys seen Avatar, the movie? There's a part in this movie where everything's fallen apart. Their civilization, their tree of life has been destroyed because this guy didn't know what was happening. The people, his superiors, were setting him up so they could destroy this beautiful tree of life. And at one point he comes in, and they don't trust him. The people don't trust him anymore. His own people don't trust him, and he's alone. And he goes, "Are we passing around those Kleenexes? I'm sorry." He comes in with his flying dragon. He gets the most powerful dragon flyer. And he comes down, and the woman that was interested into him before she felt betrayed by him, he comes to her after doing all of these things to try to help save and help the civilization. And he gets off this dragon that he's conquered, so to speak, and he comes down, and she sees that he's coming to help them, and she says, anyone who's seen it remember the line here? She says, "I see you. I see you. Not I feel you, but I see you." Self-compassion is seeing self and being able to see others deeply. And when you do that, you're going to be empowered to love in a profound and loving way, in a powerful way that changes lives. And it starts with you. It starts with knowing who you really are. Thank you so much for being a part of our class here at Addo Recovery. We are going to be offering in the next year a second part of this that is titled Improving Your Quality of Life. And we're going to be focused specifically on happiness and life skill building and having a whole lot of fun. If you're interested in participating in that class, there is a cost for it, but you'll need to talk with Eric and Danny about that. But we will be doing it. It's a quality of life class. You're more than welcome to attend that, but you'd need to talk with them about that if you're interested. Anyway, it's a quality of life, and it's just totally designed on increasing our happiness. The reason why we're doing this is because we found this. With people struggling with addiction, it's not just stopping their addictive behavior. Research shows that they have to improve their quality of life. And so it's not just sobriety, it's literally improving their life satisfaction, their quality of life. And I thought, why would we offer that to the men as a phase if we aren't offering that to the women? And so we've talked about it, and as a team, we feel the best way we can do that is to say, if you've been dealing with trauma, but you would like to have a greater sense or quality of life, we've got a few classes that fit with how to improve your quality of life. So if you're interested, that's an option. And if you haven't heard, we're doing a men's program, and that men's program, we're just on week 6. We've got week 7 and 8 left, and then we're going to be, we're actually going to be offering that for men to do online. And that's another tool that we're giving to help couples work through this. So that is actually going to be recorded and live probably in February or March, the whole program there. And so that's kind of what we're doing here at Addo Recovery. I want to thank you for being here today, those who have been with us from the beginning, and I appreciate the opportunity to spend with you. In closing, just let me invite you to be authentic with who you really are. Awesome. Good. And great. Women who do hard things. Thank you very much.